it's Affy, and today I am here to do my reread wrap up. I did a whole bunch of, well, not a whole bunch, I only read like 6 or 7 books, but um, for February I reread a whole bunch of my faves, and I am just here to talk about it. So if you want to hear about these books that I've already read several times for some of them, go ahead and stick around. So the first book I reread for February is by Lisa Kleypas. This is part of the Hathaway series. This is Seduce Me at Sunrise. And this is basically part of a readathon that's going on for the Hathaway series. Honestly, it's a readathon for Lisa Kleypas books in general. The Wallflower series was just done, and now the Hathaway series is being done. And then after the Hathaway series will be the Ravenel series, which I'm totally looking forward to because I love the Ravenel series. So this is just a readathon that I read this for, but I enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars the first time I read it, and I gave it another 4 stars this second time that I read it. So pretty consistent scoring with this one. In this book we have Win or Winifred Hathaway and Kev Merrypen. Kev is a Romany boy who the Hathaways' father saved when he was a child. And so he has been with the Hathaway family since he was, I want to say, maybe 12 years old. And he and Win have basically been interested in each other since they were children. He has always felt like he is not good enough for her. And so he's always kind of pushed her away. She got sick with something, and it kind of left her weak and just not healthy as a whole. She gets sick very easily, she gets winded very easily, and her health is just not good. And so her and her brother Leo decide they're going to go to France, and there's like a health clinic there, and she feels like this is her best chance to go and just try and see if she can get her health, just improve her health. Her brother Leo is a bit of an alcoholic. He lost someone that he loved, and he's just been going through a hard time. And so he and Win decide they're going to go together to France. He feels like this will be a good chance for him to kind of get away from everything and maybe start anew. And so the two of them leave and go to France. Before she leaves, she tells Kev that she's in love with him, and he pretty much blows her off. When they return, it's been about 2 years, and Kev is different. He's distant, he's harder, he's just like Win being gone has kind of left him in a very negative place, and he's definitely not softened over time as she's been gone. The doctor who she had met at the clinic that she went to in France, he comes back with Win and her brother, and he has an interest in Win. And when Kev realizes that someone else is interested in Win and he might lose his chance to be with her, things start to kind of take off from there. And while he still doesn't feel like he's a good option for her as a partner, he can't let her be with this other man. And so he's just kind of driving her nuts, where he's like, I can't let you be with this man, but I don't want you to be with me. And I think for me, this is where the book kind of got on my nerves just a tad bit. The fact that he kind of was pushing and pulling her away, and it just kind of annoyed me. It was like, dude, either you want her and you're going to be with her, or you want her and you're gonna leave her alone and let somebody else be with her and be okay with it, because you can't keep pulling this poor girl back and forth like this. She loves him, and she's the one pushing for them to be together the majority of the book. Like I said, it's him kind of being the ass and just Yeah. He's just a little ass throughout this book. Like I'm like, come on, man. Don't be like that. Don't be like that. The next book I read, or reread, sorry, in February was Some Like It Scott. This is by Suzanne Enoch. And this book is I think the third or fourth book in the Scandalous Highlander series. This is about Monroe, who goes by Bear, and Katrina. Bear is the youngest brother, and he's always been that person that's like, I can never be a one woman kind of man. Like, I enjoy my freedom, and his siblings are all married now. Like I said, their books are before this one, and all his siblings are now married and they're having kids and they're all in love, and he's like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. But they're trying to convince him to get married and settle down. He's like, absolutely not. Bear is basically hunting on the family lands one day when the deer that he's hunting gets shot down. And he's like, holy shit, like who's out there? And he's kind of sitting around waiting to see who it might be, because their family still has kind of issues with other clans. Some of the siblings have married people from rival clans, and so they're not sure if there might be other people out there still after them. So he's a little nervous at first, but then the person that shows up to take the deer carcass is a woman. And he's like, huh, okay, what is a woman doing out here? And so he decides he's going to follow her to see like where she goes and what she's doing. And so he follows her and finds that she is staying at some like broken down property on their land. He decides he's going to try and just approach her. And she points a gun at his head and is like, I don't know who you are, but you need to get the fuck away from here. Like, I want to be left alone. And he's like, just so you know, you're on my family's property. So if anybody should get the hell away from here, it should be you. So he leaves. But the next day he returns. So he starts asking her questions, trying to kind of figure out kind of who she is, why she might be there. And she makes comments about how she needs like bread or books or I think bread, books, and blankets. She basically states that she needs those things. And so the next day he shows up with those items and drops them off at the front door, and she's like, oh, okay, so maybe this guy isn't like, you know, trying to hurt me. So she calms down a little bit when she realizes like he's not out to get her. And it kind of goes from there. She is caring for her sister. Both her and her sister have run away from their families. But they've both run away from marriages. Her sister was being forced to marry this man who had already supposedly killed 3 wives. And so she was like, I'm not about to be the 4th. And so she's like, absolutely not. And Katrina has also been set to marry somebody. And in Katrina's case, she's scared because her father raised her as a boy. Her father had wanted a son, and so when he didn't get a son, he ended up with 2 daughters. He basically raised Katrina like a boy. She wears pants, and she learned to hunt and fish and basically just do all the things that men do. And so she feels like this marriage that they're trying to force her into is basically them just making fun of her. She doesn't know how to be a lady. She doesn't know how to be and act like a woman. And so she feels like everybody's just laughing at her. Bear walks in and he takes care of them. He goes from being, I am not a one woman kind of man, to I am Katrina's man and Katrina is all I want. Yeah, this book gets very interesting towards the end of it. It's very interesting all the way throughout, but it gets very interesting towards the end when his family finds out about Katrina. She's also from not necessarily a rival clan, but a clan that they do not really get along with. His family does not like that. They don't like the fact that she acts like a dude, and so yeah, they don't like her, and they're pissed at the fact that Bear is with her. And it gets very interesting when it comes down to her or his family. He puts his foot down. He's like, she's with me, and if you don't like it, it is what it is. You can't stop me from being with this woman. And I just love him for that. Like, he knows what he wants, and he's gonna fight for what he wants, and what he wants is Katrina. I really enjoy this one. It's funny and sweet, and yeah, I just love Bear and Katrina, and I think that together they're just a very interesting couple. He's very much a man's man, and she can hold her own with him, and he loves that about her. So yeah, I really enjoy this one, and I just love this book to pieces. The next book I read is Lisa Kleypas. This is part of the Ravenel series. This is Devlin Spring. This is the third book in the series. And in this book we have Pandora Ravenel and Gabriel St. Vincent. Gabriel is the son of Sebastian and Evie, who are from the Wallflower series. So if you have read that series, this is their son in Pandora Ravenel. Pandora is a very interesting young woman. She and her sisters grew up out in the countryside. Their parents really didn't care about them. They only cared about their son because he was going to be the Earl. And so they kind of just blew their daughters off and were like, yeah, y'all can do whatever you want. Like, we don't we don't care. They just did not care about their daughters at all. So Pandora and her twin are kind of just wild. They're these wild childs, and Pandora is definitely the wildest of the bunch. She's like a little Tinkerbell, as I like to say. She's very sprightly. She doesn't know how to hold her tongue. She's very much I will say what I'm thinking right as I'm thinking it, and even if it's inappropriate, like, that's just who she is. She's not been raised to be a lady. So she's very much got her own personality, and she wants to be a game maker, like a board game maker. And she feels like if she gets married, she will not be able to make board games. She will be forced to just be a wife and a mother, and she has her own goals and dreams, and she does not want that to be taken away from her by getting married. So one day she's at a ball and she's bored out of her mind. Her friend approaches her, and her friend has been having a rendezvous with a man and lost, I think, her earring, and she can't go back in there. So she begs Pandora to go and find this earring for her. So Pandora goes to the gazebo, and she's looking for the ring when she gets caught. Her dress gets caught. I think she's in between like a bench or a chair or something, and her dress gets caught and she can't get out. And she hears somebody like chuckling behind her, and this guy is basically like, do you need help? Like, what's going on? Are you stuck? Like, can I help you out there? He basically is trying to help her out from this situation when somebody walks in on them and witnesses him basically bent over her, trying to help her get out of this bench. I think she's stuck in between the bench, like, slits or something. I can't remember exactly how she got herself stuck in there, but he's trying to help pull her out, and, you know, he's bent over her trying to help pull her out, and somebody walks in. I think it's the guy that is, whose ball it is, and he's like, oh, how dare you, at Gabriel. And Gabriel's like, no, 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 it's not what it looks like, I swear. And this guy is like, you're in this room alone with this woman doing God knows what. You'll have to marry her. And Gabriel is like, shit. And of course Pandora is like, no, 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 no. And so they're basically begging this guy, like, please don't say anything to anyone. And he's like, nope, I'm gonna have to tell your and the guy's like, nope, I'm gonna have to tell your chaperone, and you, young man, I'm going to have to tell your father. I can't believe that you would put a woman in this situation. And he's just like, nothing happened. And she's also like, nothing happened. But the guy just won't listen to them. He basically has to run to her family's house and ask her cousin for her hand in marriage. And she walks in and she's like, I'm not marrying you. And everybody in the house is like, look, this is going to be a scandal. Like, are you sure you don't want to marry him? Like, it's going to look really, really bad. And she's like, I don't care what it looks like. I am not marrying him. But Gabriel offers for her family to come and visit them out by the countryside. They have beachside property, and he's like, look, come for a week and let's at least get to know each other. This man puts on the charm, and he charms this girl into saying yes. Like, their week together at his family's home is really, really sweet. It's a good time. I really enjoyed that week that they spent together at his family's property. The scene where she finally agrees to marry him is so sweet. It is so adorable. I love that scene so much. This was my favorite book of 2024. I just love these two characters separately and together. Like, he's so sweet on her. And it's funny because at first he's like, this girl is not what I would want for myself. Like, he wants a woman who's been raised to be like the quintessential lady, to manage a household and to be able to raise his kids to be like very blue-blooded children. And so he looks at her and is like, yeah, no, like, I really don't want to have to do I have to do this? So that's his initial reaction. But then after they spend a day by the beach with one another, he starts to realize there's something really special about this girl. And once he starts to realize he actually kind of likes her, he really starts to put in the work to win her heart. And I just love that about him. He's like, I want to marry you, and I want you to want to marry me. And so he's just so patient and sweet with her, and I just can't. The first time I read it, I gave it 5 stars, but upon reread, I think this is a 6-star read for me. I just love the two of them. And you know, there's a caregiving scene towards the end when she gets hurt, and he just feels like his whole world is ending. So yeah, 6-star read now. So the next book I read is The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie. This is by Jennifer Ashley. And in this book, we have a neurodivergent hero named Ian Mackenzie. And then we have our heroine, Beth. Beth is a widow. She is set to remarry to this guy that Ian thinks is just a fucking idiot. He's like, this guy does not deserve her, and I'm going to make sure that she does not marry this man, because he has seen her and he just thinks she's so beautiful. And so he basically tells her, like, look, the guy that you're supposed to get married to is, he's a bit of a freak, and he's got all these women that he keeps on the side. And she's like, oh. And so she leaves that man, and Ian decides he's going to swoop in and take his chance with her. He's got a lot of, just his personality is just different. And so, at first she's not really sure what to make of him, but she finds him very fascinating. And so the two of them start to spend a lot of time together, and it starts to get very steamy between the two of them. He's got a whole thing about how he really he wants to screw the ever living shit out of her. Like, so he's very, very honest, and he tells her this, and she's like blushing, but she's like, I kind of want him too. There is a whole thing in here. There is a cop who thinks that Ian has committed several crimes, and this guy is out to prove that Ian is a murderer. And that brings a very interesting aspect to the story. There's kind of like a murder mystery going on where Ian himself is trying to figure out who actually did it. And this cop thinks that Ian did it. And so that aspect of it was very interesting. I enjoyed that part of the story. Ian and Beth are, they're a very interesting couple. I like that she doesn't find him to be weird or anything like that. Like, a lot of people consider him to be mad. He had been thrown into an insane asylum by his own father when he was a child. People still consider him to be insane, and she doesn't see that. She's like, he's got his quirks, but he's not crazy. He's loving, and he's kind, and she sees the real Ian and not the weirdo that everybody else considers him to be. The first time I read this book, I gave it 5 stars. I gave it 5 stars again. I just love this story. The next book that I reread was, this is by Erin Langston. This is Forever Your Rogue. And this book is huge. So in this book we have Cora and Nate, and I just love this book. So Cora is a widow. So I think a year, maybe 2 years after her husband dies, she is out of mourning, and she finds out that her husband has left her and his sister as guardians of her 2 children. Her husband's sister is a very wretched woman. She is married to a priest, and the 2 of them are just, they're not good people. They treat her horribly, and they write to her these condescending letters saying that, she's not raising her children right, and she lets them get away with too much. Mind you, her children are toddlers. This woman just berates Cora all the time. And she knows that they have the right to possibly take her children away from her. So she and her brother, who is a barrister, aka a lawyer, decide that they're going to build a case and try to get her to have full legal guardianship of her children. The sister-in-law has basically told her, you don't have a legit family for these children. You don't have a husband, and therefore you being just a single mother is a problem. And so she decides she's going to try and find somebody to pretend to be her fiance so that she can have what looks like a strong family support for her children. And so she contacts Nate, who she knew before she got married, and she basically asks him to be the person that does this fake engagement with her. And at first he's just kind of like, I don't know that that's a good idea. He's very much a lives by the seat of his pants kind of person. Like he's just kind of there. He goes and he gambles and he hangs out and he just does whatever he wants, and gets himself into trouble, and he doesn't really have a purpose in life. So he comes to her countryside manor for 2 weeks to stay with her and the kids and her sister-in-law. And in those 2 weeks, things definitely start to shift between the two of them. And he sees the way that the sister-in-law treats Cora, and he realizes that he can't just leave her behind with these people, and the way that they treat her is just not okay. So he decides he's going to stay for another 2 weeks, and the way this man falls in love with this woman and her children is glorious. This book is amazing. This book is so freaking good. I can't even. The way he cares for her children, he sees them as his children, and he sees her as his woman, and he fights for them to the point where he almost gets thrown in jail. Like, this man does what he has to do to protect her and her children, and I just loved him by the end of this book. He is such a wonderful man. I gave it, I believe, 5 stars the first time I read it, but this time I gave it 6 stars. It's just so wonderful. I don't know how many other adjectives I could give it besides wonderful, great, astounding. The last book I reread in February is my favorite book of all time. This is A Scoundrel of Her Own, and this is by Stacy Reed. This is the 3rd book in the Sinful Wallflowers series. In this book, we have Devlin Byrne and Ophelia, or Fifi, as he calls her. And Devlin and Fifi meet as children. He actually saves her from a carriage wreck. She is floating down the river, and he runs off and saves her. And the two of them are stuck out in the woods. He's about 12 years old, and she is, I believe, 8 or 9 years old. And he saves her, and they find a cabin out in the woods, and they are there for like a week, I think. And he finds food for them. He forages, he kills rabbits and cooks them on a spit, and keeps her warm, and they play together, and it's just sweet. At one point they decide that they're going to marry each other when they grow up, and they make each other rings out of like flowers, and it's super cute. But then they're found, and she is being taken home, and her parents are walking her back into the house, and Devlin is telling her, we're supposed to get married, like, wait for me, Fifi, just wait for me. Then it jumps to about, I think, 12 or 15 years later, and she is now a wallflower. She's in her mid-20s, she's still not married, And her parents have basically told her that they want her to marry for love. And so she's basically not gotten married yet because she hasn't found love. Her father is damn near on his deathbed, and one day he lets it slip that she is not her mother's child. He had had an affair, and she is the daughter of his affair partner, and he had taken her from his affair partner. She obviously is curious as to who her mother is. And so she decides that she's going to start going around asking questions about her mother. And she dresses up, she puts on this blonde wig and a face mask, and she goes around singing in bars and clubs as Lady Starlight. And she does this so that she can go to places where her mother, who had also been a singer, sang at, and hopefully she can get her questions answered about her mother. One day she gets a letter from someone named Devlin Byrne saying a song from you to me. And she's heard about this Devlin Byrne, so she has a little bit of an idea about who he is. But she decides she's going to go because he offers her money, and her family is not necessarily in ruins, but they're headed toward being very, very broke. And so she takes the money and decides she's going to go and she's going to sing for this Devlin guy. And, that's all she needs to do. She goes, she sings her song, and Devlin walks up to her, and she's like, for some reason he's familiar to me, but I can't put my finger on why. And then she comes to realize that he is Niall. He's the little boy that had saved her all those years ago when she was a child. And it kind of goes from there. I love this story. There's so many interesting scenes in here. He is the son of a woodworker or a farmer or something like that, and so he's not of her class, and her parents are very, very prejudiced. They do not believe in her being with anybody that's not of blue blood. It's just interesting. He's worked his entire life to be able to be a man that can afford to care for a woman like her. And he's like, I know I'll never have the titles and I will never be of blue blood, but I can at least give you the type of lifestyle that you've always had. He has loved her his entire life, and he has done everything he's done in his life just to be with her. Even when he couldn't find her, he was like, someday I will find her, and I want to be a man that she can be proud to be with. There are some amazing scenes in this book. He gets her a goat. He gets her a goat because when she was a child and they were out in the woods, she had told them that if she was ever to have a pet, that she would want a goat as a pet. And so he sends her a goat and names it Barbosa. When I say he loves this woman, and he tries to tell himself that he doesn't love her the way that everybody can see that he loves her. I mean, his own family, all his friends, her friends, everybody can see that this man is obsessed with this woman, and he's like, I don't love her. I mean, you've done everything in your entire life to be with this woman. You love her. He's fucking amazing. I love this man. So, I love this story. I love these two. I just finished reading this last night, and I'm still thinking about them. I gave this book 6 stars the first time I read it. I gave it 6 stars the second time I read it, and then I gave it 6 stars this time upon reread as well. So this will always be a 6-star read for me. I will always love this book, and every time I close the book, I'm just like, I've only heard I believe 2 other people talk about this book, one being Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life. And she absolutely loved it, and that made me feel justified in my love for the book that made me feel justified in my love for the book just because she's got such amazing taste. If you have made it to the end of this video, go ahead and leave me a speaker emoji. I hope that's an emoji. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.